everybody. Welcome to episode 58 of the Alexei Sayle podcast. Now, I know you're saying to yourself, wasn't it just episode 57 of the Alexei Sayle podcast? And you'd be right. And then you say to yourself, I'm used to waiting months for these fucking things sometimes. Till he gets around to doing another fucking one. And you'd be right. Again, you're always right. Customer is always right. And so I just after me and Talal did episode 57, I just sort of getting the feedback and stuff. I just suddenly thought, why are we waiting for guests, really? Why do we sometimes spend, weeks waiting for somebody's schedule to align when perhaps what you want, and we'll see over the coming weeks, perhaps what you want is just me and Talal yammering away, really, which is what most podcasts are, anyways. Two blokes. Just, and yeah, I think we'll have guests when we got porridge in my beard.
Perhaps we'll have guests.
Perhaps we'll have guests. We'll have guests certainly when the mood is right and when we feel. But let's just see if this works. Really, just me and Talal chatting, and this week we're going to be answering listeners' questions. We're going to have our film club. Where we're going to discuss Edge of Tomorrow, which you may not. You probably want to watch it because you think, well, I've got fucking months until he does another fucking podcast. So why should I watch Edge of Tomorrow now? And now you're like, oh my, what can I do? You could always pause this and watch Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, which is. Don't worry, we'll get. It's on Now TV.
It's on Amazon as well, like $3.95 or something.
Yeah,
or it's often on. You could pause this podcast until it comes around again on ITV2. Which is where I think. No, I used to see it on 5 Select. I think was where I kept seeing it in.
Oh my god, a film that good designated to Channel 5?
Yeah,
wild.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to do that. But first of all, of course, we need to, seeing as it's the 7th of November, 2024, it's apposite to address the elephantitis in the room, which is the election of Donald Trumpet as leader of the 47th President of the United States of America. And it's a dark day for us all. Well, thank God I never made a prediction really either. Occasionally people would say to me, what do you think's going to happen? And I'd say, well, I genuinely don't know. I don't live in the United States. I don't really follow US media, so I don't know how, necessarily how the electorate would jump. I think I was, my feeling was that Trump was always going to win, really, but that was a feeling that I suppressed even to myself, but it just all felt fake. Many lessons I think to be drawn from the victory of Donald Trump and the abject failure, of course, of the Democratic Party, which is essentially what it is. Certainly the US podcasts that I tune into have been excoriating the Democratic Party since the results came out. And I think quite rightly that, and Bernie Sanders, is, Linda says she's got no time for Bernie Sanders because he was being very, he's not been outspoken about the genocide.
Not enough.
He should have been, not enough, yeah.
He did eventually come round to it, didn't he?
Yeah, but I think what he's been doing the last 4 years, and you can see it in AOC as well, that they have tried to make a pact with the devil and tried to say that, I don't know whether they've had conversations in secret where the Democrats have said, we will do this for you if you support us. I think that's always a mistake, really. The leadership of the Democratic Party, I suspect, I don't know any of them, but they're like the leadership of the Labour Party here, the worst people in the world in many ways. And, they would never have, certainly Bernie has got no concessions out of them, as far as I can tell. But he said, I think in a letter last night or whenever it was, he said, well, how can a party that has deserted the working class then be surprised when the working class deserts it? And I think that gets down to the nub of it, that the Democratic Party, it seems to me, is entirely, as given itself over to the donor class. They raised a lot more money than Trump, for instance. Much good did it do them?
Bloody hell.
Much more money, but it didn't help them. They are, I think, I suspect they're like Labour Party over here. They are people of university. They're a university-educated elite who knows nothing except politics or local government. And
speaking of, their treatment of students has been abhorrent as well. So they were deserted by them as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, and by black people and everybody really. Mm-hmm. And of course, they're extraordinary insult to Arab Americans.
Indeed.
If they weren't going to lose Michigan anyway, in the fair, they were certainly guaranteed it. And there was a particularly vile speech. I don't know if people saw it, by Bill Clinton. It was most despicable, one of the most despicable things.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. Horrid.
Seen. How many times did he go to Epstein's paedophile island? 26 times, I think. But it was a disgraceful display. They are the Democrat Party. I've had liberal friends, American friends of mine here, go and they won't vote for a woman, they won't vote for a black woman, which may be the case, but you can't. It's that. I mean, it's off quoted. That poem that Bertolt Brecht wrote about at the time of the riots in 1952 in East Germany, and it's that one about the Central Committees issued a statement saying that they were very disappointed in the people. Perhaps it is time to dissolve the people and elect another. Something. I'm slightly misquoting it, but I mean it's a brilliant, because it encapsulates that idea that if you fail to appeal to the electorate, then it is the electorate's fault, and it's not. It's your fault. And I mean, particularly when you've got such, when you certainly, Kamala Harris had the legacy media on side, she had the donor class on side. It's not, we could, when you're talking about Corbyn, you could say, well, the game was rigged, we never, and you could complain, not about the electorate, but about the game itself. Whereas Kamala Harris went into this game, with, having several advantages and still failed to win it, really. So, I think that it seems to me that the blame should really fall on the Democratic Party. I mean, which is not to say that, I mean, people in the United States are incurious about the outside world, but then it's their media, perhaps it's their media that keeps them that way.
The proof is in the pudding, because, the two Muslim members of Congress, one of them being Palestinian and the other one, Ilhan
Omar and Rashida Tlaib.
Thank you. They both
re-elected with
re-elected huge majorities.
Huge, yeah. And the Democratic Party, stood on a platform of absolute morality, and the Democratic Party should learn that lesson, but probably won't. And it's also true, I don't know whether I haven't really met. I only talk to my liberal American friends on the phone and stuff, but I mean, I think I would say, they moan about the electorate and so on. But I think, Joe, the great moral test of our century has been the genocide, and Joe Biden not only sort of didn't intervene, but enabled it, really. And I mean,
encouraged it.
Yeah, encouraged it. Well, fuck him, really. I mean, if you
can't imagine Harris would have been any different.
No, I suspect not.
And
really.
It's true that Trump is probably going to be even worse.
Yeah.
But I've been flitting between, laughing at the Democrats' loss, because it's kind of that's what you get. It's kind of, they got what they deserved, really,
yeah,
because of their behavior. And then having just immense despair on the fact that Trump's coming back in.
Yeah.
Which just goes to prove what a joke of a country America is, and no one should ever take them seriously again. Like, they should get 50 years in the naughty corner because of it and not be given any responsibilities.
Yeah.
Because if you can elect a man like that into power...
Yeah. Unfortunately, if they didn't have 25% of the world's economy and the largest army by 9 times larger than any other army, you could ignore them, but it's a bit more difficult when that is who they are, really. But it's it's intensely it's terribly problematic. But
have you ever?
I mean, the Democrats, like I say, I don't know anything. Seem like a disgrace, really. Whether it's unlikely. And of course, the other thing was that fucking Biden. Some people say, oh, what I know, he's a decent man. He's not a fucking decent man. He's I don't know if I said, he's the largest ever recipient of AIPAC, i.e., the Israeli lobby aid in the United States ever. He voted when in his early days as a senator. He voted. He combined with a right-wing Republican senator called Strom Thurmond to try and prevent school busing, to try and prevent integration of schools in the South. And he's got a long list of crimes, enabling big business. He's a horrible,
you can find footage of him from the 70s. Just a smarmy, elitist, business-minded git, really, and it's. But when Obama gave him the vice president job, that was pretty much the first I'd ever heard of him. I wasn't aware of him before that, and you just see this like sweet old man coming in. You go, he's probably quite nice. He looks nice, and then over the years, all this stuff gets dug up, and you see the truth.
Yeah, evil old bastard. Of course, by his vast vanity and egotism in not standing aside, trying to think that he was up to
delusional,
second
really.
term, and the Democratic Party, going along with that lie and telling everybody, he's fine. He should be damned for that, really.
They just didn't know what to do. I think they were just out of indecision because, like, who do you put against Trump? Like, he's such an anomaly. And I'd forgotten how invulnerable Trump is, because just in the last 2 weeks, the shit that has been dug up on Trump and that horrible Madison Square Garden rally that they had, where with the just overtly racist speakers, like, that should have buried him.
Yeah.
No, that should have buried anyone else.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I was like, oh, Harris is going to win. And I was saying it with some dismay. I'm like, okay, it looks like Harris is probably going to win this. So I was actually quite surprised to see Trump take it.
He seems fireproof from it for whatever reason.
But that's what it was like back in 2020 or 2016. That's what it was like. You'd think he had no chance, like grabbing pussies and all this shit that come out about him. You're like, how does this guy stand a chance? And then he won.
Yeah. Well,
we forget how.
The one thing he offers is hope, isn't it? Really, essentially, is what you boil it down to. He offers a better future and a better world. And, Kamala Harris is, joy and, just telling us everything's fine when people can see that it's, feel that it's not, that everything's kind of terrible. And then Trump says, I'm going to make it better. And so that message, I guess, for some reason, he is able to. There's some, I don't know, fucking polling, but, there's some polling that suggests people actually don't like him, but like his policies. I don't know. In the end, you can go round and round with this shit, really. I saw one of their fucking Sky reporters, the one who'd been reporting on it, and he just, as a casual aside, he said, Democratic voters, voters were put off by the Democrats slip towards the left, slip in the... I thought, are you fucking joking? You fucking lazy simpleton. That you would accept that, the Democrats did not fucking slip to the right. They very clearly left. Sorry. They very clearly hove to a right-wing neoliberal politics, and to say, that Donald Trump called them communists or whatever, but it was garbage and
it's garbage.
But I think there is. They are. The Democrats seem like the same kind of political class as Labour Party here, and there's going to be the same outcome. I think that the Labour Party, where they're all, was it 7% of MPs now come from a working class background? That they all went to Oxford, they all went to, they all did PPE at Oxford, and then they're either lawyers or lobbyists or parliamentary advisors, and then they become MPs, and they've got no connection with the electorate at all. They've got no connection with the working class. I think it's the same of the Democrat elite, and it's the same with the Labour Party here, and it's going to be the same results, I suspect. And just to, I was out for a walk on Sunday by a very nice kind of nature reserve called Woodbury Down, up above Stoke Newington, and I saw coming towards me, who should I see coming towards me? Somebody I've slagged off regularly, Ed Balls, and his wife, Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary.
You're kidding.
Going to an event, I think, around the lake. Fair play to Yvette Cooper. She didn't have any protection at all with her, but I just started laughing. Fucking Ed Balls' fatuous, fat fucking face.
He's a twat. Who's that Labour MP who bloody knocked a guy out and then punched him 3 times while he was on the ground?
It's all gone quiet about that, hasn't it? I can't remember his name. He's MP for Runcorn.
Just straight up beat a dude up.
Yeah.
And then Starmer tried to cover up for him briefly.
Yeah.
Until the video came out.
Yeah. We haven't heard much about that recently.
It was in the news for 1.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Wild. I couldn't believe I was seeing that video footage.
No.
I couldn't believe it.
Was that my phone ringing? Oh.
These are our leaders. They don't deserve to be called Labour Party anymore. Yeah. None of them are working class or workers.
No, they're all bloody, they're all from this
Just because your dad was a tool maker,
technocratic.
He has never picked up a tool in his life.
No.
Apart from his own.
There's some lack of clarity about whether his dad actually owned the firm anyway. But his dad also voted for Jeremy Corbyn for the leader of the Labour Party. I think maybe some of Starmer's problems come from the fact that his dad died now. His dad hated him when he was...
Has anyone made the joke that the biggest tool his dad made was Keir Starmer?
That joke has been made, I think.
I'm sure it has, yes.
Yeah. How's it going so far, this banter? The banter back and forth.
Let us know, listeners.
Let us know. You liked it last week. You may have gone off it now. You're longing for the great days of Lee Mack or even that bloke from Oxford who was talking about elections. Sorry, what were you going to say?
How do you think Trump attracted Muslim voters?
I don't know, really. I don't know whether...
That was a question asked by a listener.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they think he. I don't know. Maybe. It was an act of like fuck you to Harris. Maybe they're just foreign affairs don't interest them. They're American citizens and they're uninterested in foreign affairs, just like any person in the United States, and so they just vote on the same reasons that everybody else is voting. Why, in the sense that we expect them to have different views. I don't know. I think. There is. I suppose you could posit. Everything is. You could posit the idea. And I do, that everything is. a lie, really, isn't it? That all news, apart from this podcast, all news is a lie. Everything is a fiction, really. Everything you are told is untrue, and therefore, but people vote, and the democratic process itself is a lie. But people vote based on that as well. Hello, Will.
Hey, Will.
People vote on that basis, really, the lies they're told and the lies they believe, and so that they do mad things that are directly contradict their interests.
Well, as the same listener notes in her question, she's a Patreon member, so thank you, Lou. Trump is supported by fundamental evangelical Christians who love him because they're hoping he's going to bring about the apocalypse, and then that will bring about the rapture. So they are literally going against what their beliefs are because they think that will lead them to eternal.
I don't know
whatever
why,
they get in heaven.
I don't know why people vote the way. I mean, I think all you can do, really. I mean, I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I mean, all you can do, I think, and all we can do as people on the left is to try and tell the truth and put forward a program which is always truthful and is always in the interests of the mass of the people. I think that's all you can do. I agree. And you can't play games. You can't do what Bernie did, which is try and make alliance with fucking, the Democrats. AOC did this. You can't do it. You just got to tell the truth all the time. Whether it's uncomfortable sometimes, it might be not what you want to say. It might not. It might go against your liberal ideas sometimes. But I think that's all you can do is tell the truth all the time
and listen to the truth and accept. And
and listen to what people are saying and
I couldn't agree more. And I'd add to that, don't be afraid and don't despair. As our boy Ben Jamal said at the march on Saturday as well, it really got me because he said we shouldn't despair because we don't have the privilege of despair.
Right.
And people in much worse off conditions, people in Gaza do not have that privilege to despair. They have to fight to survive every day.
Yeah.
And if things keep going the way they are here or in America, that will apply to us too. So despair get you nowhere.
No.
And he said that at the exact right moment when I was really, really needed to hear that. Shall I give you some more listener questions? What do you think?
Go on. I might eat some of my muesli and I say, look like a prisoner out of a French film. The Prisoner of Zenda or something.
Okay. Some of these, look, if we can blast through these. Is permanent revolution the only choice? Probably, but who's going to do it, right?
I don't know what that means, really. I need to top up on my leftist jargon.
Revolution. They're basically saying revolution the only option.
Permanent revolution is presumably a theory. I don't know whether it means that once we achieve power, that then you have to, do what Mao, which is to then have a permanent state of revolution, which is that, nothing is fixed, that, you constantly, that institutions are torn down and rebuilt, and so that you never settle into a kind of static state, but that because that then leaves a gap for your enemies, really. I don't know if that's what the theory of permanent revolution is, really. Somebody can explain to us, but it sounds a bit exhausting, doesn't it, really, as a world to live in, really. You can't have a night off, you know what I mean? You can't have a sit down.
I guess the root of the word is revolving, isn't it? No.
Chain,
but
right.
All right, last one on this kind of topic. Any advice to keep our spirits up and what we can do so that the UK isn't in this position at the next election?
Well, I think that there are.
You covered that, didn't you? But carry on.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I think that there are, obviously the 5 independents in Parliament, grouped around Jeremy Corbyn. Also here in Holborn and St Pancras, Andrew Feinstein is. There are Jamie Driscoll in the northeast. There are political groupings forming all over the country. I think that they are political parties which nevertheless need to have a strong connection to their communities, need to be, I think, to enable community activism, I think, but not try and take it over or anything, but be a facilitator for it. It's kind of a kind of community-based politics, really, a bottom-up kind of politics.
And when you get involved in that stuff, it does give you some hope, doesn't it? And optimism.
Yeah.
Just being around like-minded people just is enough sometimes, isn't it?
Exactly. It gives you that, you feel like even if it's a campaign about your local market or some,
you never know who you might meet, you might even find love.
You might, yeah.
Someone else actually asked, what gives you joy at times like this? What brings you joy? I think that's an important question. It's a profound one as well. Because a lot of people carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, and sometimes you don't need to all the time. What makes you smile these days?
Me.
Yeah. I guess your kung fu makes you happy as well, doesn't it? Exercise.
I think does, without going all kind of Michael Mosley, but I mean, exercise does have benefits in and of itself, in that it, stirs your system up, I think, so you feel less lethargic, but also it can stimulate, it can bring you joy. And certainly spending an hour or two learning how to batter the fuck out of somebody, very positive. In fact, I've just come back from, I'd say it's helping to teach a Kung Fu White Crane Young Chuan white class. I say I'm helping to teach, but really it's just the instructor is not allowed, because it's over 55's class, so he's not allowed to demonstrate on the people in the class. So he demonstrates on me. So yeah, so I've just been battered for an hour, really, by a man much more adept in the martial arts than me.
Teaching and sharing the knowledge you have is really,
that's true,
rewarding. I teach drama to little kids on Wednesdays after school, and it is, when I'm on my way there, I'm like, off to work, and then you get there and you've got all these little kids looking up at you, and they're so talented, and you're giving them fun games to play and teaching them little tricks, and it is. I think really that's
true. I mean, I think that communicating a skill you have is really a positive thing to do. It does make you feel better. And particularly as you get into there is an idea that as you get into your 60s, you stop being the hunter, and you become the kind of the teacher. You become, your role in a kind of metabolic way almost is to communicate the knowledge of the tribe to the youngsters.
Okay, next question. Someone asks, does Alexei have any idea how cute he is?
No, well, do I? It'd be a vain thing, wouldn't it, really, to think how cute you are? Well, shut up. Shut up.
Okay, next, Liam asks...
are you hearing that?
Yeah, it's adorable. He's fine. He's not interrupting. Come on. We're not dealing with Sir Lenny today. He can... meow all he likes. Hello, Wilf. Liam asks, did Alexei have a manifesto when he started alternative comedy, or was the revolution more spontaneous?
Yeah, well, I didn't have a coherent manifesto. Well, in a sense, we did. I mean, I think I did. That I obviously I wanted to be different to all the comedy that was going on at the time, and so that was the main thing. And then the idea of kind of non-sexism, non-racism also was very central to the ethos. So I mean, that was a conscious manifesto. But more than that, I was just trying to be truthful, really. I mean, and it wasn't necessarily. I mean, it just came intuitive to. I mean, that's why I'm, the 17th best comedian in the history of the world. It came in. I mean, what I would do at the Comedy Store, really, which was this really wild club in a strip club, full of, when it was all amateur performers. That before the act came on, I would kind of build them up, but if they failed, I would be horrible about them afterwards. And that, in retrospect, that is incredibly cruel, but it is also kind of truthful, I mean, I wouldn't always be horrible, but I mean, I'd acknowledge that they'd failed. I wouldn't try and pretend that they'd done well. Actually, now I'm talking about it, it sounds awful. But, it just kept the evening going, really. I mean, my main commitment was to keep the evening going, really. And so it was a kind of savage honesty to what I did.
Was as a reaction to the status quo at the time.
Yeah, and it was also a reaction to that kind of sugary kind of bullshit, of show
and the
business,
racist,
everything's
sexist
great.
shit.
And, but also that more profound dishonesty, really, that we all, everything's fine and we all love each other, and there's every act is great and you're going to love this, and it's just not true.
Of course, we had a lot of questions about Trump and the election. We've I refer you to the first half of this podcast. All right, Alice asks, long-time listener, first-time asker.
All right.
As a big lesbo, I'd love to hear about Alexei's experience on tipping the velvet. And I remember when that show came out, I was a kid, but I remember my dad watching it, and I was confused as to why he was watching it. And then I realized he liked the
sexy
sauciness of it all.
Yeah.
But that Tipping the Velvet was like a Victorian lesbian love story, right?
Yeah, written by, what's she called, Sarah?
I'll look it up for you.
She had a series of very successful novels for quite a short time about lesbianism. Well,
Sarah Waters,
that's right.
And it was in 2002. The TV
camera,
show.
Yeah, the camera. When we did the all-new Alexei Sayle show, the camera operator, the director of photography on that show was a woman called Cinders Forshaw, and really very talented cinematographer. And I was, after the series had gone out, I was just walking on the street somewhere. I bumped into Cinders. I said, "How are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, great." She said, I've just got this job where, as DOP, and it's full of lesbian orgies and leather dildos and, kind of debauchery. And I said, "Oh, can you get me a job on it?" And so, everything went quiet. And then my agent rang. She said, like a month or two later, she said, "We've just had this offer." There was an offer. I didn't have to audition or anything. It's an offer for you to be in this show, this drama called Tipping the Velvet. I don't know whether I thought I was going to be a lesbian in it. I think that would have been going a bit far. But I was a musical owner called Charles Fatty Frobisher.
Lovely.
And I play some vital role in the, I'm a plot kind of divide, I introduce somebody to somebody else.
Right.
I remember spending a couple of days with, they're then quite young, the stars, Rachel Sterling and, who's the other woman? The one she was in, got a big break in Spooks.
Rachel Sterling and Keely Hawes.
Yeah. So I remember spending some time with Rachel Sterling and Keely Hawes, and they were both absolutely lovely, really. And it was very nice to work with them, and it was nice to work on.
Benedict
I wasn't
Cumberbatch.
involved in.
Benedict Cumberbatch was in it too.
Was he?
Apparently so.
I wasn't involved in any of the orgy scenes, sadly, so I can't give you any. But yeah, no, it was. I mean, it was funny. It was very nice of Cinders to kind of pass my message on to the producers. It was. I know. I think I was okay in it. I was pretty good in it. I think. It's a kind of role that wasn't a major role, but I didn't. I didn't let the team down. It was a role that sort of suited me. A bloke who ran a kind of Victorian music hall.
Called Fatty. You were called Fatty.
Charles Fatty Frobisher. Yes.
Someone else asked, do you wish you did? Do you want to do more acting? Or do you enjoy doing acting? And do you want to do more of it?
I think I think that the acting I did, I should have taken it more seriously. Really, I was talking about this at a Q&A thing last night. That I should have really put more effort into my acting, really. I did too many bad movies in which I was bad myself, really. The acting is... I really admire actors. I think it's the things we ask them to do. They are still the way that we, in many ways, interpret the world is through actors. And the things that we demand of them are extraordinary. If you think for a second about what you're asking actors to do, the hoops that they and I never quite committed myself enough to that to really make it work. Really,
Did you ever do any classes or coaching or anything?
No, not really.
Is that a regret? It sounds like that's something you kind of regret.
No, I don't. No, I mean, I think I knew enough really to. I don't know. I don't know whether any classes would have made any difference.
I mean, in general, what you're saying about not taking it seriously enough. Is that something?
What are you asking me?
Is that something you regret that? You wish you did that differently?
Yeah, I think more about turning down some of the bad movies that I did, and also some of the. I guess being a bit more serious about seeking out better roles, trying to, I never got, I don't know what would have happened if I'd ever got that role. Like Robbie, Robbie Coltrane was obviously was an actor. But, he also got that big break of Cracker, really, which... turned him into a kind of star, really. I starred in the odd series like Selling Hitler, which was a 4-part for ITV. But they never worked out. I never got that hit. I was never cast in that hit series, or whether, maybe rightly, because I wouldn't have been good enough. But I never got that. That apart from the young ones, yeah, there was that,
and your own fucking primetime sketch shows and stuff.
Yeah, but that's all comedy.
Okay, and then what about now? Is that something you feel? Do you wish today you'd be getting like big movie roles or sitcoms?
No, I don't think I could do that anymore. All that getting up at 5 a.m. and stuff. I don't think I could do that anymore. Really, I don't think I'm up to it. Really, I sometimes think about. I'll tell you what, my one regret is that I never did a play. I did one play, which was The Tempest in 1988, the Old Vic, directed by Jonathan Miller. I didn't particularly enjoy the experience, but I wish I had done
more.
If
you could be in any play, if you could click your fingers and be cast in any play, what would you do?
Death of a Salesman or something, I don't know. I'd have to think about it. But I suppose a template for how Adrian Edmondson really went for being an actor. That he, out of all of us, that he spent a couple of years in Holby, a medical soap. He took lots of parts. And now he's in, and he learned. He really dedicated himself to learning the art of acting. And now he's massive. He's in Star Wars and, with the major franchises and shit like that. Of all of us, Adrian is the one who has perhaps succeeded the most as an actor. But the way he did it was to really, really put the time in. And, I suppose I wouldn't necessarily have had, if I'd done that, I wouldn't have had the time for all the other, I wouldn't have had the time for Sandwich Bar, wouldn't have had the time to do this, so Strangers on the Train. I don't know whether, I don't know.
You're in a good spot. You're in an enviable position.
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad.
All right, one more topic. I think we're going to have to move on to our film club soon. But a few people have asked about up north related questions. So first off, someone mentions they would love to watch the documentary you did again about Liverpool, but they can't find it. What's that documentary?
No, it was 3 1 hours about Liverpool. It was based around when Liverpool was European Capital Culture in 2008, and so it was for BBC Two. Now, I mean, it's a bit frustrating now. A lot of my stuff isn't on iPlayer, really. I don't know whether... I sometimes think it's a...
Do you remember what it was called?
It was called Alexei Sayle Liverpool, I think. It was a really good documentary series. 3 1 hours. If it's not on iPlayer... I find I do find it frustrating that stuff isn't on iPlayer or the all new Alexei Sayle show or even Merry-Go-Round. And it's frustrating that my documentaries like Liverpool don't seem to be on iPlayer either. And I don't know quite why that is, but, I think I sometimes get ignored, I think. Yeah. I think I do... I mean, I shouldn't, I have had and still have a fantastic career. I think sometimes, if I was to be more self-pitying, I would say that my brilliance is not always completely acknowledged by the machine, by the people, But then maybe that's also a kind of factor in my brilliance.
Well, I'm sorry, Alexei.
I know
we'll do what we can. I'm struggling to find Alexei Sayle Liverpool somewhere to watch it, but we'll keep you posted, dear listener. And lastly, Alexei, I've had 5 messages asking when you're going to come up north, do a show up north, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
I know you probably don't have any plans for that currently.
No.
But maybe we should do a live podcast up there in Liverpool.
That's
Homecoming.
not a bad idea. Yeah, let's do that then. Yeah, that's a good idea. Because we're going to do these things weekly. We're going to get fucking fed up of doing it just like this, aren't we? So we should, again, live podcasts, they're the thing, aren't they? They're the thing that makes the evening go with a wang. Started completely gibbering now. People like that live podcast.
They do. We should do a live show in Liverpool, get a couple local warm-up acts.
Yeah, it's low risk, isn't it? Yeah.
And have some true blue scousers in the crowd to ask you some questions. You must have a local guest up there, someone who you're friendly with up there that we can bring on as a guest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right.
Let's do that fairly soon. Yeah, I'm sorry about... what happened with... I had this stand-up tour in 2020. Well, in fact, I did 5 nights in Liverpool, so... that was the last stand-up I ever did, was 5 nighs in Liverpool. And then the lockdown happened.
Yeah, no, we've covered that. But
maybe we should do that tour. Well, I was going to do a larger tour off the back of that tour. I'd missed out Scotland, I'd missed out the Northeast, and so maybe we should try and do somewhere in the Northeast.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
If that sounds good to you, listeners, please reach out to us. Message us on Instagram at Alexei Sayle Pod. You can email alexeisaylepodcast@gmail.com. You can join the Patreon and message us on there, and there's a lovely chat group there of all the Patreon members, and that's at patreon.com/Alexei Sayle Podcast. If you want to see more podcast episodes, if you want to support the show, help keep the wheels a-turning, please visit patreon.com/Alexei Sayle Podcast. Consider giving us £1 or £2 every month. It would bloody help me. Right. Alexei Sayle's Film Club time.
Film Club. Leader of the gang.
Last episode, we mentioned that we were going to watch Edge of Tomorrow. And we hope that you listeners have watched it too, because we're going to chat about it. I didn't get any messages about it, though. Or questions.
So it might be a
dud, but I'll tell you what, if you've got suggestions of what film we should do for next month, we're going to try and do this every month, right? I've got a bit about Edge of Tomorrow in the new series, A Sandwich Bar. You know, everyone should watch
I'm interested. It. Listen.
Can I tell you a bit about the film before we get into it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. It's from 2014, directed by Doug Liman, who made the Bourne movies and stuff, and I think he's a bit of a Zionist. And it's based on I think I've just got a feeling. It's based on a novel called All You Need Is Kill by Hiroshi Sakurasaka. There we go.
Was it a graphic novel?
It said novel.
All right.
It would make a great graphic novel, but we got a movie out of it. Edge of Tomorrow, a.k.a. Live, Die, Repeat. Set in a near future where an alien hive mind race of invaders threaten to annihilate all humanity, a soft, cowardly military media spokesman, Tom Cruise's Major William Cage, becomes infected with time-warping space blood, flinging him unwillingly into an endless time loop of the day in which he dies in the futile last-ditch Battle of Normandy-style assault on the intergalactic illegal immigrants known as mimics. Can he, with the help of mech suit-wearing British robo-ninja Rita Vrataski, played by Emily Blunt, find a way to save all of humanity? If their world is anything like ours right now in 2024, maybe they needn't bother. Edge of Tomorrow. There you go. Initial thoughts. Why did you pick this film, I guess?
Well, I'm a big fan of Doug Liman, really, until you told me it's designed. That he directed the first Bourne film, and it was a very troubled production, but nevertheless, I mean, it set the templates in a way for all modern action films. You know, it certainly profoundly affected the Bond franchise. You know, in that you know, there's those massive car chases there's no CGI, it's just cars hurtling through the center of Paris, smashing into each other.
Yeah.
And I really like the first Bourne film. I think it's ultimately tremendously successful.
Brilliant film.
And I think you got to credit Doug Liman for that. Paul Greengrass came in and then took over and gets a lot of credit for it, really. But I think it was Doug Liman who really set and there's some other franchise I was watching that I saw was him as well. I can't remember what it was now. But
yes, there was.
Edge of Tomorrow. It's also, what I like about Edge of Tomorrow is also the Tom Cruise is the last film star in a sense, but what this shows at first is his gift for comedy, really. That when he starts out, he is this really pretty repulsive character, and he does it beautifully, really. That he just plays the comedy very subtly, but he plays it terribly well. And what it also does is, like I was watching this film on the telly, I think called Tomorrow Wars, which one of the Chris's, I know, but it's sort of, so people come from the future and say in 30 years' time, a similar idea, Earth is being attacked by aliens. We need people from your time. You need to go into the future, fight the aliens for a week, and then if you survive, you come back to the present, and and then there's some fucking storyline with this guy and he meets his daughter in the future, and yada yada yada. And the thing is that the film, obviously, all these films are nonsense, by their nature. Time travel doesn't seem to be possible, but that film doesn't obey its own laws. That it's not a coherent universe. The Tomorrow Wars. That it doesn't make any sense even within its own parameters. You think, well, if he did that, then that would, it's full of holes. The thing about Edge of Tomorrow is that it's coherent within its kind of, it's clearly unbelievable. It stays true to the kind of strictures of the story, and so it's believable within its own narrative. And I think it's a very difficult thing to do. That. I mean, that's the real. It drives me mad sometimes as a scriptwriter, and I see it over and over again. And people are particularly critics, are too indulgent of it. That anybody can set up a really amazing premise, like people coming from the future and saying, we need you to, there's a war in the future and we need you to help. What is much more, and you see it all the time in these police stories, these Harlan Coben stories and stuff like that. You set up all these fascinating premises. A man meets a woman who seems to know him and she tells him details of his life. But when they pay these storylines off, they're fucking nonsense. They devolve, they degenerate into gibberish because they don't have the writerly skill. You can set up all these fascinating premises, but the real genius comes in paying them off. And the thing about Edge of Tomorrow is that it within the confines of the story, it pays everything off coherently.
It really does,
really.
And that's something that people take for granted, isn't it?
People go, oh, it's just it's another. I mean, it's a much. I think it was a bit of a sleeper hit. It wasn't a big hit when it came out, but I think it's a film that's gained attention. And the special effects are fantastic. And, William Goldman says for a film to be a success, 7 different people need to be at the very top of their game, really. The star, and he's very much somebody who's against the auteur theory, that kind of French idea that movies are made by one person, the auteur. Well, he says 7 people need to be at the top of their game. They are the star, the screenwriter, the director of photography, costume, I don't know when I get to 7, but costume, makeup, wardrobe. I mean, these days, digital effects, special effects need to be at the top of their game as well. And in this film, everybody's at the very top of their game, And it's just, in a sense, it's a modest film. It's not a film, it's a film made in the way that films should be made. It's a solid, it's just a solid piece of storytelling, I think, really. And, Tom Cruise is, is the last great movie star, I think, in many ways.
Such a strange man. Like, you look at any of his personal life stuff and it's so confounding, but just pure character and on screen. And he is, I really, really adore his work.
Yeah. He's a great.
You get some fun screams out of him in this one. Because this film, he dies like 100. If you don't want the film to be spoiled, by the way, if you haven't seen it, you might not want to listen to this. But we watch him die like 100 times in this film. And he keeps getting reborn back at the same point every time he dies. And a few of those deaths, he lets out like a comedy scream, which you never hear from Tom Cruise. But he is a great comic actor in several films. I can think of Tropic Thunder, and of course his early work, things like Cocktail and Risky Business. Like he's a funny fucker. He's just carved this path into being an action star, but he's got great sense of humor. And I would say this film does use some shortcuts to help kind of move the film along. There are a few cinematic tropes thrown in there. And bizarrely, there's like 2 stereotypical drill sergeant characters. There's the one who wakes him up. Who's like, says, maggot. On your feet, maggot.
On your feet, maggot. That's right.
And I wrote down, he goes, on your feet, maggot. We hear that about 20 times in the film. And then he also says, where is it? On your feet. Get in line before I bust your hole with my boot heel, maggot. We hear that line a bunch of times. Right. And then you've got Bill Paxton doing his best Tommy Lee Jones impression as the second drill sergeant kind of guy. Do you remember him?
No, I don't remember that.
The guy who brings him... The guy who brings him over from On Your Feet, Maggot over to meet J Squad. He walks him over. And I'm half expecting him to say, search every boathouse, outhouse, farmhouse, because it's just doing a spot-on Tommy Lee Jones.
I mean, the one slightly odd thing is, as the general is, what's the Irish actor who's in the Banshee of Inisherin?
Oh, he's brilliant, Brendan Gleeson.
Brendan Gleeson, yeah. He's not your kind of typical casting for kind of general. I mean, it's great because it takes you out of the, it makes you concentrate on the part really. But he's not the obvious piece of casting for the sort of the uncooperative general, is he?
Yeah, you'd expect like an uptight American, almost kind of maybe slightly youthful, but he's like just a squashed-faced, grumpy British guy.
Yeah.
But I guess they've created this coalition army, isn't it? It's all the armies of all the world, including Russia and China, our worst enemies.
Yeah, I like all that stuff, yeah.
They're all fighting together against these aliens.
Yeah.
Which does lead to another kind of shortcut I really found funny. So there's a couple of cheesy, tacky decisions in here, which add to the humor of the film, you could argue. But so Tom Cruise gets forced to join J Squad, which is a squad of soldiers. And they really, to me, they came across as like a diverse street gang from an 80s movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? They had like one of everyone in it. And they were all really mean to him. They're like, you better get in line, buddy, or else you won't be able to piss straight. But like there's a Mexican, an Australian, a lesbian, a Cockney, an African-American. There's a fat guy. There's an Asian. There's like the whole group.
All right.
And the big guy was played by Tony Law, which was nice to see. Tony Way, sorry. Do you know Tony Way?
Remind me.
He's the overweight comedy English guy who he wears his mech suit with no clothes underneath.
Yeah.
And he's he's like a British sitcom actor who's like, kind of a Kevin Eldon style. He just pops up on TV all over this.
I mean, another thing about it is it's set in London, but it's a believable London, isn't it? There's one scene in the pub which is a bit like, blimey.
What's that road called? He's in the pub with loads of Cockneys complaining about the war, and they call him a coward. But he to get to that pub, he drives down that road the pink road that leads to Buckingham Palace. What's that called?
Pall Mall.
Pall Mall. He drives down Pall Mall, and then suddenly he's in the pub.
The Mall.
He drives down the Mall, and then suddenly he's in the pub. And then I also noticed his helicopter at the beginning lands in Trafalgar Square.
Yeah.
And he is then suddenly in Whitehall.
Right.
That's where he goes to meet Brendan Gleeson.
Right.
So they obviously fudge the geography of London quite a lot.
But the main camp is at Heathrow, isn't it? And
the army camp is set in Heathrow, and that's where they fly off to this Normandy-style invasion of France.
Mm.
And it's fucking great. The sci-fi element, the time loop that he's caught in, like you said, is such a strong premise.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome. And it does pay off at the end.
Yeah.
Because he loses that power. He loses the power to time loop at the end, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And then
he has to, he's
got one chance left to save the world.
And it's kill the queen, as it were. Yeah.
And they do it really cleverly.
Yeah.
He does take J Squad with him to Paris to kill the Queen alien.
But then, of course, they're all, because the day resets, they're all alive again, aren't they?
Yeah. But they all die instantly in Paris. All of J Squad.
And they're reborn again, so nobody dies.
Nobody dies at the end. Really nice, satisfying ending, actually.
Yeah.
What else? What do you think are the themes of this film? What would you say this film is?
Edge of Tomorrow. Well, it's not. I don't know that it, I mean, it's the same theme of, I don't know whether, it's...
The obvious comparison is Groundhog Day, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you were about to say?
Yeah. But, I mean, in which, again, somebody odious becomes better just by living their life over and over again.
That is completely just brought over from Groundhog Day, because that is the journey that Tom Cruise goes on too, isn't it?
I mean, that's unfortunately none of us are afforded that experience. So I suppose if it perhaps tells you that, that you can get better, you can be less odious by just behaving better, I suppose.
And then you will get
message. I don't know that it's just a solid action film, isn't it? It doesn't really have a message as such, really.
No, I think that was it, though. I think that is it, because he has a much happier life by being a good person and by thinking of others. Yeah. The whole reason he gets into this pickle is because he refuses to go into the war, because he's like he doesn't like fighting. He says, I don't even like the sight of blood. And he's like, okay, you're going into war whether you like or not. And that's why he gets into this whole situation. But it is by becoming less selfish that he gets the girl, saves the world.
Yeah, the whole package. Hurrah.
Huzzah. I love the line when Brendan Gleeson says, he walks into Brendan Gleeson's office and he says, this better be critical. And Tom Cruise goes, fate of mankind critical enough? God, I wrote so many notes that were not necessary for this conversation. But a really, really fun watch. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it.
And also with a female protagonist as well. I mean, it fulfills that. She's the hardest in this film is Rita Pataski. Mm-hmm. Without any, she just is. There's no.
She begins as the hard ass. He softens her up, and then she toughens him up.
Yeah.
And every time you meet her, she's doing that push up. Do you know that push up? That iconic. Yeah. She's in a push up and she curls up and looks at him,
and then lift her feet off the floor.
She's got some fucking muscles, man.
Yeah.
She's great in it.
She is. I mean, again, she's somebody who can do both serious and comic, I think. I mean, she's a terrific actor.
I think she's carrying a lot of weight in it as well, because she does portray a lot of emotion. There's a lot of internal pain you can see in her. And she has this backstory which slowly gets unraveled as the film goes on. And you can see the pain in her face. Like she's a very good, subtle actor. I'm a fan. All right, any other business on Edge of Tomorrow before we wrap this little...
We resolved to make these things only no more than an hour, didn't we? So,
give or take, but we don't want to drag it out. If we're going to do it weekly, let's keep it concise. Lots of sweat. Tom was very sweaty in the film. That's all I'm going to say. That's it. That's close my notebook now.
See if you can find
Okay, listener, if you've got any recommendations for the next film club, which we'll do in roughly a month, and we'll give you a heads up, don't worry, but send your suggestions in.
The link for the recordings of, I don't know whether it's gone public yet, but the links for recording of two nights of recording Alexei Sayle's Imaginary Sandwich Bar are up on our site, aren't they? Give you a chance. Have you done that?
On our site?
Yeah, I sent you the link.
I've shared that on all the socials.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yes, and I'll pop it in the description below, or the description of this episode as well. Yeah, you sent me a link. I was thinking about the work in progress one, but there are now.
No, they're also.
You can now apply to the official BBC recordings of Imaginary Sandwich Bar in January, December.
No, December 6th and 7th.
I'll pop that link in the description of this podcast. Sign up. It's free.
Yeah.
And it'll be historic.
No, fantastic nights. I mean, anything to go for, previous history is anything to go by. All right. Well, that was good. We should think about doing a live podcast in El Norte.
Liverpool.
And
I'd love that. Really. I love that. I love Liverpool. Really cool town.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of playing there in the Arab or Middle Eastern Arts Festival last year.
Yeah.
And we did a comedy night, Arabs Are Not Funny. And I got to walk around Liverpool all day.
No.
And I bought some jeans.
Wow.
Some Levi's jeans.
Proper Levi's. They were knockoff.
No, they were having a sale at the Levi's store, and they were a fucking bargain. And I went down to to the Maritime Museum, and we did a boat tour, and it was fucking stunning.
It is an extraordinary city. I mean, I just think about what it would have been if they hadn't knocked 2/3 of it down. Really, about just how extraordinary. You know, I still have there's a book, there's a graphic novel coming out that there's a quote from me on the cover. It's called Anfield Road by a guy called Chris Shepherd. It's the Guardian's graphic novel of the month.
Wow!
There's an event at the cinema, the Park Cinema, I think, in Covent Garden, that I'm going to be interviewing. I think I'm interviewing Chris, or Chris is interviewing me. But it's worth, make an ideal Christmas present. It's about Anfield, the Anfield Road of. I mean, he's younger than me, but it's about the Anfield Road of my sort of late teens, when one day it was all amazing, beautiful houses and happy communities, and the next day it was all rubble.
I'll tell you what, let's talk about that more next week on the Alexei Sayle podcast.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Alexei Sayle podcast. This show is produced and edited by Talal Karkuti. Music by Tarbush Records. Thanks to Audio Boom for hosting us. Please keep your emails coming in at alexeisaylepodcast@gmail.com. Goodbye.